All right, guys. Our next guest is coming to us live from one of the most important places near Stockton, California. He is a stone's throw away in Montega, the home of Richard Perez Boxing, which is, of course, where Nate Diaz is currently training to face Conor McGregor in their rematch at UFC 202. And with us is Nate's longtime boxing coach and the man who will be cornering him, Richard Perez. Richard, welcome back to the program. How's it going?
Thank you. I'm doing good.
Well, Richard, paint the picture for us. You're 2 weeks out from the fight. What's the scene like currently at the gym? Is the mood getting more and more serious as the day gets closer? And have there been a lot of Stockton natives coming down to the facility trying to catch a glimpse of Nate preparing for one of the biggest cards of the year?
He's always serious when it comes to training. He just has more time this time. It's a lot better. The camp is better. The training's better because he can focus more, because he has more time.
Well, I mean, of course, Nate Diaz and, of course, his brother Nick, in a lot of ways, they've put Stockton on the map. Do you get a lot more traffic, a lot of people traffic, people coming in to the gym and, trying to catch a glimpse of Nate working out?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I have to lock it up, keep them out.
It's interesting because, obviously, there's been a lot of time, extra time that Nate has had to prepare for this fight, but also he's done a lot more media. He's been on all the big shows like Jimmy Kimmel and such. Have you found that that's sort of taken away from your time training, or has that been scheduled in a way that it hasn't really interfered?
No, it doesn't interfere because I go up there and train with him wherever he goes.
Wow, so whereabouts are you guys training? Are you guys training on the set of the shows or in and around there?
No. Boxing gyms.
Okay. Just checking. Now, before we even get to before we even got to this point, there have been, a lot of unexpected twists and turns since the last time we spoke to you. First, the rematch was set for UFC 200. Then the rematch was cancelled. Then there were the ridiculous rumors that McGregor was fighting Floyd Mayweather, and this rematch wasn't even happening. What was your reaction when they finally announced that this is going to happen on August 20th? And was there ever a moment where you thought this fight would never happen?
Well, sure, in the back of my head it does, but I figure, well, just, give it a chance to see how far it goes. If it goes all the way, then we're ready. But if not, depend on McGregor, I figured he might back out, but so far he hasn't.
Well, when we spoke to you last time, you said that the fight you wanted next for Nate was whichever one would bring in the most money, and that you and Nate were tired of getting chump change. Considering how big this fight is going to be, do you feel like Nate and yourself are getting the money that you guys deserve?
We should get more, but it's not where it's at. I mean, he's getting it, but not like he should.
I guess the big assumption was because this fight took so long to get together, and obviously there was the meetings between Nate Diaz and Dana White. People, I guess, were under the assumption that that the money must be right. Whereabouts is the money as far as you're concerned? What kind of percentage? If 100% is perfectly happy Richard Perez and Nate Diaz, whereabouts are you guys?
What do you mean?
You're saying that Nate Diaz and yourself should be getting more. How far off, I guess, are you?
Oh, it's. I mean, if you think about it, you watch all the fights. I mean, they're making more money pay-per-view than than Mayweather and them. I mean, and he should be making a lot more. At least, they should be. At least he should be making, 10 million, 15 million. Heck, no, not even close.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a huge fight, like we mentioned, and a lot has changed for Nate since UFC 196. He's become one of the UFC's biggest stars, and he even did it at the late night show with Conor O'Brien, which is a big deal because previously only fighters like Ronda Rousey, Chuck Liddell, and Conor McGregor have appeared on it. We're just wondering, Richard, give us your analysis of Nate's performances on these shows. How have you liked what he's been able to do on the mainstream, I suppose, publicity circuit?
Oh, he's doing fine. I mean, there's nothing interfering as far as training, and as far as him being on shows, it's not that long, So he's doing good.
I'm sure that obviously you as a trainer, you're more impressed with what his, in-ring accomplishments have been. But did it make you proud seeing him on such a big platform and getting that kind of exposure?
Sure. I mean, because he deserves it. It's about time. He's been fighting everybody. There was times he was fighting three times a year, 4 times a year. Nobody's done that.
It's interesting because Nate's a humble guy, doesn't really like to sort of get out there, doesn't really like to pump himself up too much. But you're a humble guy as well. With all the success that Nate Diaz has gotten, Richard Perez Boxing has got a lot of success as well. A lot of people talking about the amazing job that you've done with him and the great facility that you have over there. How have you dealt with the added attention and people sort of coming up to you wanting more photos and just sort of wanting to hang out?
Well, it's fine. I mean, I accept them coming in here. I'm not gonna put anybody down or tell them to get out, or they don't. I treat everybody like I want to be treated. So when they come in, they like me because I'm not going to be cocky, or I just want to respect them just like I want them to respect me.
Before Nate did the Conan O'Brien show, I'm just wondering, did you guys talk about it at all? Did he say anything to you about it that, hey, I'm going to be on Conan O'Brien?
Yeah, he told me he was going to be there. That's why we went to L.A. I mean, we went up there because I knew he was going to be there, so we wanted to train. We didn't want to stop the training.
I'm just curious, what was Nate sort of, how did he bring it up to you that he's going to be on Conan, Because, like we mentioned, he has done a lot of media, but it's not really something that I guess would be his first choice to do. Was he nervous about doing the big show?
Well, he didn't say he was nervous. He just said, I'm going to be on the show. And I said, okay. How long are you going to be? So an hour, all right. So he was there, and we already trained, and so he came back and to the hotel, and that was it.
Sure.
And trained next
While
day.
While he was on the show, Richard, he said something interesting. He said that before a fight, he usually expects to get knocked out so that he can be pleasantly surprised whether he wins or doesn't get knocked out. Considering he's only ever been knocked out once in his entire career, can you explain why Nate would have his mindset and mentality to expect to get knocked out?
Well, every fighter expects that, but they don't want to say it, like it's like an amateur. You go in there, you feel like, I might get knocked out. Okay, I got to expect that, but I got to try not to. That's normal, but nobody wants to, they're not like Nathan. Nathan speaks up, wherever feels in his mind. A lot of guys won't, but it's always in somebody. It's always in their mind. Even McGregor, everybody, even though how cocky they are, like Mayweather, they could be really cocky, on the best. But once he gets in that ring, and before he even gets in the ring, he's going to feel like you get that feeling. So you have to be really alert.
That's interesting. What would you say are the benefits of having a mindset like that? How does it play positively into the fight?
Well, it's normal. I mean, I'm not saying about being positive, but it's normal. If you ever fought before, you would know it's just a normal thing. Just like when you interview people, you get a little nervous sometimes. Maybe you're good at it now, but you think about what I need to say, what you're going to do,
sure,
how you're going to say it to this person. You know what I mean? But boxing and MMA is more of a serious. It's a sport. It's not a game. It's a sport. It's a hard sport, and so your mind is going to think, well, I can get killed, I can get knocked out, I can get a broken leg, arm, anything. So your mind is set on that, but you have to try to focus on and not any of that stuff happening.
Yeah, it's something that the media sort of ran with, and didn't. A lot of people thinking, Nate Diaz isn't as confident going into this fight as usual because he thinks he's going to get knocked out. But did that sort of give you a bit of a laugh, seeing the media and a lot of websites sort of running with that and making it seem like Nate has less confidence going into this fight because they didn't really understand that aspect of it?
Well, people are running with it because he said it, and he's way up on top, and what I see is that it's normal to say that, but fighters won't say it. But when he said it, since he's way up on top, he beat McGregor, and then he says it, so everybody's running with it, saying, Nate thinks he's going to get knocked down. No confidence. That's not it. He's just being honest. It's any fighter being honest. Like if you're fighting and you go in the ring or a cage, what are you going to think in your mind going in there? I'm just going to go knock the guy out. I'm going to win. No. You got to think of the negative and the positive. It's not that he wasn't confident or feel like he's going to get knocked out. No, that's not it. It's just every fighter thinks that, but they don't want to speak it up. They don't want to say nothing because I don't ask me why, but believe me, it's in the back of their head.
Well, I mean, one of the things that everybody loves about the Diaz brothers is their honesty. Speaking of that honesty, soon after the show, Nate tweeted out, UFC played me again, #TrustNobody. I'm just wondering if you know what exactly was it that made Nate frustrated with the UFC, and do you know why Nate would feel like he was played?
I never asked him. I don't know, because I've just been training him. I don't want to, give him any questions right now. So that's not important to me. What's important to me is training him, keeping focused. That's my job. So that's what I'm doing. And maybe after the fight I'll ask him, But right now, everything is just training, straight up training. I'm hardcore. I'm not gonna ask him any silly questions or what happened over there. My job is when he comes in here into my office, then he's going to be doing what I tell him to do, and he does what he wants to, as far as training. Yeah, we don't get involved. We don't do any. I don't do any of that. I'm not that type of guy. I just want to make sure he's getting everything right and getting ready to prepare for a fight.
Well, the trash and the trash talk and the build-up hasn't been as intense as prior to UFC 196 going into this fight, UFC 202. But we were there live at the UFC 202 press conference a few weeks ago when Nate and Conor squared off for the first time since the first fight. Last time they squared off at a press conference, there was an incident where Conor threw a hand punch, which almost started a brawl. Was a part of you concerned or expecting something similar when you were there this time around for that press conference for UFC 202?
Well, the first time I expected it because of McGregor, but then the second time I felt like he wasn't going to even try, because even when he spoke, he wasn't like he was the first time. He was very low key, didn't say too much. He just kept saying he had his belt up there. Why he had his belt up there, I don't know why he's not defending it. So, but yeah, I guess he put it up there for secure. He's being secure because he's insecure about himself as the one fighting Nathan again. So why he had the belt up there? I mean, everybody thinks they're calling me and say, "Hey, Nathan's fighting for a belt." No, he's not. So Dana White shouldn't allow him to have the belt up there because everybody thinks he's fighting for a belt and he's not. So this time up, I felt that McGregor wasn't so confident because he wasn't saying too much.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you bring up because a lot of people are talking about the fact that McGregor hasn't really been as vocal, obviously, coming off the loss. Do you think it's indicative of the fact that maybe he has lost a bit of confidence from the first fight and going into this one, he may not be as confident in his abilities in this rematch with Nate Diaz, or do you think it doesn't really indicate very much?
Oh, it does, because if you watch the first fight, Nathan only had 8 days of training. They gave him like 11 days notice. He only trained for 8 days. McGregor had a whole training camp, and the first round he came out, and Nathan knew he was going to come out fast and hard. So I told we knew that. I told Nathan, let's just move, and don't try to don't tire yourself out. Set your punches up, move. Sure, you're going to get hit, but try to go with the punch. And then the second round, when I told him to pick it up, he picked it up. He already knew he was going to do it. And McGregor said he was tired. Well, of course, because if you watch the fight, Nathan it wasn't just all about McGregor. Nathan was pinpointing shots, catching them with the body, and that kind of wore him out a little bit. So then the second round, Nathan set it up and caught him with the left hand, and when he did that, and the way he beat him, McGregor shot at Nathan, which nobody does because he's really good on the ground. So McGregor was trying to get a break. You can't get a break on Nathan when you go to the ground. And so that's why McGregor was on his back, and he turned on his belly because he didn't want no more. Nathan was hitting him in the face, so he just turned over like a kid and said, "I quit." That's giving up. So he totally put himself in a spot where he really got beat bad for a guy that only had 8 days of training. So now I know McGregor is really thinking about now. Nathan has a whole full camp. It's a big difference now.
Is it sort of a flip of a coin the other direction as well, with Nate beating him on 8 days' notice, now having a full training camp? Is there a worry there for you that he may be overconfident going into this one? Oh,
no. Nathan, nah. Nathan trains like he's training for a fight for every fight. He knows me. I've talked to him, and I said, McGregor's going to come out and try to fight you, and he knows it. He's not going to go out there and just say, okay, I beat him the first time in 8 days. He's got to train. He's training really hard. Believe me, he's training like he had never fought him before. So,
wow.
Because he has a full camp now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Nate Diaz already beat him, and you've told us before how Nate feeds off the trash talk and how it drives him in fights. The trash talk isn't really there this time. What is driving him, or what is motivating him now?
Nathan?
Yeah.
Oh, the win, it's motivating him to win. So he knows, and the time now, he's got more time to train, so that's really motivating better because he knows he's got more time. He's more confident. He's in better shape. His jabbing going to be laying out there where McGregor can throw an uppercut, throw whatever he wanted, because the first time, like he was leaning forward a little bit, because the full camp wasn't there, and that's in any fighter, So if McGregor thinks that he's going to go out there and do the same thing they did last time, it's not going to happen because Nathan's prepared now. He's got more time. So now McGregor needs to look and see and say, what I do here. You know, I gave this guy 11-day notice last time, and he knocked me out and got me on the ground and tapped me out. You know, which he shouldn't have. But now he's got a full training camp just like McGregor. So what makes McGregor think that he's going to be better than Nathan now? It's not going to happen.
Well, it seems like for a long time, money and big money fights have been a main motivator for both of the Diaz brothers. Now he's got two of them back to back. I'm wondering, Richard, what do you think Nate will look to do after this fight? Because we've seen previously that if Nate isn't happy with the options available, he's willing to walk or sit out on the sidelines. Do you think he'll make a quick turnaround after this fight and chase big paydays, or do you think he might take the time to enjoy his hard work?
Well, we won't know until it's over. I mean, I can't give you that answer. Mm-hmm. You know, I can say something and then afterwards, you know, then I'll be in a corner and everybody say, "Hey, Richard said this." No, I'll wait till after the fight's over with and see what he says.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, all right, give us the update on training. How is he looking in camp? And, you know, at this point, so close to the fight, what exactly are you guys working on and focusing on with Nate in training?
He's working on everything: his ground game, his kickboxing, his boxing, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling. He constantly does that. He's always working on that when he get ready for a fight. So there's no change. It's just he has more time to do all of it, and that makes it better.
Obviously, a chance to improve your skills, become better every training camp you have before a fight. But if we're looking at specifics here, has Nate been doing a lot of sparring rounds leading into this fight? And have you brought in any new sparring partners to emulate Conor McGregor's style compared to the last 8 days that you had to prepare for the first fight?
Oh yes, oh yeah. We found some guys that fight like McGregor, same height, you know, moves a lot, you know, tries to pinpoint, tries to set counter punches up. Yeah, oh yeah. And same thing with jiu-jitsu. You know, same thing with the wrestling, kickboxing. You know.
If you had to count them, how many rounds would you say Nate has sparred leading up to this fight?
Oh geez, I can't even count them.
1 million? 2 million?
Oh, no. Come on now. You're a reporter. Nobody does that many.
We wouldn't put it past the Diaz brothers. All right, you told us last time that you were confident Nate was going to win the first time around. What's your confidence like this time, Richard, considering how long Nate has had to prepare?
Well, of course I'm confident because he has more time. That time is important. When it comes to fighting, time is important because you need to prepare yourself. 8 days is not time. Okay, you can't prepare yourself really. It's like a needle in a haystack trying to find a needle. I mean, but when I found out, we got right to work right away. And the 8 days we gave it all we could. He did jiu-jitsu, he did the kickboxing, did the boxing. Yes, he did it all. Wrestling. So the majority was last time was stand-up. Mostly stand-up and little some jiu-jitsu.
Nate obviously beat Conor on 8 days' notice last time, and we saw Michael Bisping also beat Luke Rockhold in a very, very short training camp. Does the fact that Nate looked pretty good against Conor McGregor with 8 days' notice, did it change any of your theories on how long a training camp should be going into a fight? Because there's a lot of trainers out there, Richard, who are looking at these long training camps and thinking, hey, maybe our fighters aren't peaking at the right time. Has it changed your mindset at all on how long and how hard you and Nate work for and the duration of that time?
No, because I know Nathan, and Nathan knows himself. You know, you have a relationship. You know, as far as me being a trainer and him being the fighter. So I know him. I know when he's trained too much and when he's not. But these guys, they're like machines. I'm telling you, they'll after he trains with me in boxing, he'll go and do jiu-jitsu. He'll be up till 2, 3 in the morning training.
We don't know if you pay attention to this, Richard, but despite Nate winning the first fight, the odds for this rematch have Conor as the favorite. Are you surprised by this?
Yes, I am. I mean, aren't you? I mean, think about it.
It's interesting to say the least. Why do you think that is?
Because people like Dana White and them, they I guess they favor him. They like him. You know, I guess because they say he makes money. He's a moneymaker. Well, Nathan's the same thing, but they don't give him that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? They give McGregor because he talks a lot. He he gets people angry. The media, and some people like it and some people don't, and so he's just all talk just to get the media up there. So then everybody feels that, oh, he can do it. Well, you know what? Actions speak louder than words, and that's the way I've always felt. So that's, people are following him because what he does.
I mean, I think as far as the odds, they are more so dictated by the Vegas odds makers as opposed to the UFC per se. But I mean, what would you say to someone who's putting money on McGregor? You're seeing what Nate's doing in the gym and how he's looking. What would be your advice to any punters out there putting money down?
I wouldn't say anything. That's up to them. I would never go up to somebody, hey, what are you putting money on McGregor for? He's going to lose. No, that's what they want to do. I'm the type of person that doesn't go around and judge people what they're doing, as far as they're making a bet on somebody. People ask me, are you going to bet for Nathan? I don't bet. I can't do it. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell anybody. I'm more of a myself. I keep to myself. I observe what goes around me, and that's where I am. But I focus on what I need to do, and that's boxing.
Well, speaking of this rematch, a lot of people thinking that Conor McGregor is going to look different this time around, pacing himself more, being a lot more selective with his strikes, using his footwork a lot more. What kind of Conor McGregor are you expecting in this rematch?
Well, all I know is that Nathan's going to go out there just the same. So, see, people are talking about McGregor, but what about Nathan? I mean, he's got a training camp too. So why are they making McGregor look like he's going to be better when he already got whooped in 8 days? So why they can't see that Nathan's not going to be in better shape? Have better tools? Oh no, that's wrong. But that's the media. That's what they do.
Well, it's interesting because on one hand you've got McGregor, who in theory will probably be looking to change a lot of things, maybe pace himself more, which may make the fight go a little bit longer. But then you're right, you got Nate Diaz, who's on a full training camp. He beat him on 8 days' notice, and he did it in less than 2 rounds. Do you think this is going to be a longer fight or a shorter fight? How do you see it playing out?
Well, the way I see it is that Nathan's going to get the win. Okay, I mean, I'm not, I feel that Nathan's going to be better. I feel that McGregor's going to be in trouble because from 8 days to a full training camp is totally different from Nathan. He's going to come out a lot sharper, faster, quicker, and he's going to have more energy.
Yeah. Well,
so McGregor's not going to have. He's going to have the same thing he had the last time. He trained hard for the last fight before Dos Santos got hurt. So he was already training. No matter if it was a tall guy, short guy, he was still training to fight. Nathan wasn't. So that tells you a lot. That tells me a lot anyway. He's fighting a guy that's a lot better than him, a lot stronger than him. So that's what I don't understand why people are favoring McGregor.
It's certainly going to be a very interesting contest. We can't wait to see the fight. Now, Richard, we really appreciate the time. And before we let you go, we just want to ask you about something else. Obviously, you haven't trained Nick Diaz for quite some time, but he is making his return to the UFC. And it looks like the new welterweight champion, Tyron Woodley, is calling him out and wants to fight him next. I just want to quickly get your opinion on how this fight would go if it came together. Do you believe that if Nick Diaz does choose to fight Tyron Woodley, he can become the new welterweight champion?
Well, he can't do it in 2 weeks. I know that's not going to happen.
No, of course not. Well, it wouldn't be at UFC 202. I think that would be ridiculous. But if it happens in the future, full training camp, how would you see that playing out? Can Nick win the big one?
Of course he can. I mean, these Nick and Nathan, they're tough boys, and don't get me wrong, Woodley's not either. I mean, Woodley's tough too, but I've seen Nick fight better fighters than him. Better strikers. So it depends on Nick and how he trains.
He said something interesting in an interview with Brett Okamoto about how he believes somebody freaking drugged him. Do you know what he was talking about in there, or was he just sort of going off the cuff? Have you heard anything about that? Have you heard him speak about that before? That's in relation to his fight with GSP in Canada.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I was there. And it was George St. Pierre's nurse or something came down, and he wanted to give Nick some kind of stuff, and I told Nick not to do it, but he gave it to him, and afterwards. So That's what he's talking about.
What was
I don't know what it was.
What
I'm not saying that it was a drug or anything, but I just know that he's different.
Okay, so you say it was GSP's nurse. What was it that made you believe it was GSP's nurse? Did they say anything that they were from GSP's staff?
Yeah, well, he said that he said he worked with George St. Pierre.
Okay, and what was it? Was it something like, was it a drink? Was it an injection, a pill? What was it?
It was through an IV.
Through an IV.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And how long before the fight was this? Or was this is obviously before the
Next
fight?
day.
How long before? Next day?
Next day, yeah.
When you saw a direct sort of influence from this that you believe sort of affected him in the fight the next day?
Of course, because he was up all night urinating. I mean, he wasn't feeling it. He was going to the bathroom a lot. I mean, I don't know what it did, but I know he was going to the bathroom a lot. So it probably dehydrated him and drained him. I don't know, but I just know I was sitting there and the guy wanted to give him something. I don't know what it's for. I told him no, but he said it wasn't going to hurt him. So.
Wow, that's interesting.
He was.
And you wouldn't.
It was strange.
It sounds strange. You wouldn't remember that person's name by any chance, would you?
What's that?
You wouldn't remember the person's name, would you?
Well, I wouldn't tell you anyway. I mean, you know,
Right.
You're getting too personal there. You know, I mean, it happened, and I mean, it's over and done, and I mean, sure, Nick's gonna say it, but I mean, it's the past now.
All right.
You know.
Well, we'll forget about the past. We'll move on to the future. Before we let you go, we got to ask you your prediction for August 20th. Last time we spoke to you, you didn't really have one, and maybe because the fight was so far away. But now that you've seen Nate in training, the fight's so close. Just wondering if you have a prediction, Richard. How do you see Nate winning on August 20th at UFC 202 when he rematches Conor McGregor?
And Nathan's gonna get the victory.
Well, there you go. He's a man of few words, but you can trust them. Richard Perez Boxing. Make sure to check it out on Facebook and at Richard Perez 209 on Twitter, richardperezboxing.com. Go on the website. Make sure to go down to the facility. This is a great time to do it. Richard Perez, a genius when it comes to boxing, and a great pleasure to have on the show. Richard, we look forward to seeing you at UFC 202, and best of luck for the rest of the camp.
Thank you.